The Zarkonian invasion fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system. 3,000 warships, the largest armada ever assembled. Their mission was simple: conquer Earth and enslave humanity. Fleet Commander Threxar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dominator. His red scales gleamed under the ship's lights. His 4 eyes studied the tactical displays with satisfaction. "Begin scanning the 3rd planet," he ordered. "I want to know their defensive positions, their military strength, everything." His sensor officer, a younger Zarkonian named Velkir, worked the controls. The scanners reached across the void toward the blue planet. After several minutes, Velkir looked up with confusion. "Commander, I'm not detecting any active military installations. No defensive satellites, no energy shields, nothing." Threxar's tail twitched with irritation. "They're hiding their defenses. Scan deeper. Use full power." Velkir increased the scanner intensity. The readings came back the same. "Sir, there's nothing. No military signatures at all. No ships in orbit. No weapons platforms. It's like the planet is completely undefended." "A trap," said Threxar. "They want us to think they're weak. All ships, battle formation. Advance with caution." The massive fleet moved toward Earth. As they got closer, more data came in. And with each new scan, the confusion grew. "Commander," said the communications officer, "I'm not detecting any radio signals, no broadcasts, no digital transmissions. Earth should be flooding space with communications, but it's silent." Threxar felt the first stirring of unease. "Send a probe to the surface. I want visual confirmation." A small probe launched from the Dominator. It streaked toward Earth, entered the atmosphere, and began sending back images. The command crew watched the screens in growing disbelief. Cities appeared on the displays. Massive human cities with towering buildings. But something was wrong. The cities were dark. No lights, no movement. Streets were empty. Buildings showed signs of decay. Plants grew wild through broken concrete. Velkir pulled up more data. "Commander, these images show significant deterioration. I estimate these structures have been abandoned for approximately 80 to 100 years. "That's impossible," Threxar said. "Our intelligence reported Earth had a population of 8 billion humans. Where did they go?" The probe continued its survey. It flew over New York. The iconic skyline was still recognizable, but the buildings were covered in vines. Windows were broken. Some structures had partially collapsed. Central Park had become a wild forest. The probe moved to other major cities: Beijing, London, Moscow, Tokyo. All the same, empty, silent, reclaimed by nature. "Scan for life signs," Threxar ordered. "There must be survivors somewhere." The sensors swept the planet. After an hour of detailed scanning, Velkir reported, "I'm detecting plant life, animal life, but no humans, no large concentrations of intelligent life at all. Commander, I think Earth is abandoned." Threxar stared at the planet. The Zarkonian Empire had spent 50 years preparing for this invasion. They had studied humans, analyzed their wars, their weapons, their defenses. They had prepared for a fierce battle against 8 billion aggressive territorial beings. Instead, they found a ghost world. "Send landing parties to the surface," Threxar ordered. "I want answers." Where did the humans go? And why? 12 Zarkonian landing craft descended to Earth's surface. They chose major population centers to investigate. The largest team landed in what had been Washington, D.C. Lieutenant Kreshinar led the ground team. He was a veteran soldier, had fought in 20 campaigns across 10 worlds, but walking through the empty streets of a dead city was somehow more unsettling than any battle. "Stay alert," he told his troops. This could be an ambush, but no ambush came. The Zarkonians walked through streets where weeds pushed through cracked pavement. They entered buildings where dust lay thick on every surface. They found cars abandoned in the middle of roads, their tires rotted away. In one building they found a library, thousands of books on shelves. Kreshinar picked one up. The pages crumbled at his touch. "These structures have not been maintained for many decades," observed his science officer. "Whatever happened here happened a long time ago." They continued exploring, found homes with furniture still in place, pictures on walls showing human families, children's toys scattered in rooms. It was like everyone had simply vanished. But then, they found the first clue. In a government building, they discovered a room full of computers. Most were corroded and useless, but one, protected behind a sealed door, was still partially functional. The science officer managed to power it up using portable generators. "I'm accessing stored data," he said. "There are files here, records, communications." "What do they say?" asked Kreshinar. The science officer read in silence for several minutes. His expression changed from curiosity to shock. "Lieutenant, you need to see this." The screen showed a document dated 102 years ago. It was from the United Earth government. The title read, "Final Status Report, Project Exodus." Kreshinar read the document. His four eyes widened with each paragraph. "According to this," he said slowly, "Earth was dying. Environmental collapse, resource depletion, climate catastrophe. The humans had 20 years before the planet became uninhabitable." "What did they do?" asked one of his soldiers. Kreshinar continued reading. "They built ships, massive colony ships. Over a period of 30 years, they evacuated the entire population. 8 billion humans, all relocated to new worlds beyond our territory." The science officer pulled up more files. "Look at this. They didn't just evacuate, they planned it. Selected colony worlds years in advance, built infrastructure, created new societies. By the time they left Earth, they had already established thriving colonies elsewhere." "So the humans are gone," said a soldier. "We came to conquer an empty planet." "Not just gone," said Kreshinar, reading another file. "According to this, they've been settling new worlds for a century. They could have a population of 20 billion by now, maybe more." He transmitted the information back to the fleet. Commander Threxar received it with a sinking feeling. The Zarkonian Empire had prepared to invade a dying civilization on a dying world. Instead, humanity had adapted, survived, moved on. And worse, the humans now had a 100-year head start on colonizing new territory. Fleet Commander Threxar convened his senior officers in the war room. They reviewed all the data collected from Earth. The picture was becoming clear, and it was not what they had expected. "The humans faced extinction," said Threxar. "Instead of dying, they evacuated their entire species. How is this possible? Moving 8 billion beings requires resources beyond imagination." The fleet's chief scientist, Scholar Mexvan, pulled up holographic displays. "I've analyzed their technology from the abandoned facilities. Commander, the humans were more advanced than our intelligence indicated. Their engineering was crude compared to ours, but effective. They built things to last." "Show me," ordered Threxar. Mexvan displayed images of massive shipyards in orbit around Earth. They built these in space, assembly facilities for colony ships. Each ship could carry 10 million humans in cryosleep. They built 800 such ships over 30 years. The officers looked at the numbers in disbelief. "That's an industrial capacity matching our entire empire," said the military advisor. How did we not know about this? Because we weren't looking, Mexvan said. We were watching their military, their governments, their wars. We didn't notice they were building a backup plan. They hid the construction behind their moon, used their asteroid belt as mining resources. By the time they started the evacuation, it was too late for us to stop it. Threxar studied the data. Where did they go? The galaxy is vast. They could be anywhere. Mexvan pulled up star charts. I've found references in their databases. The humans sent scout ships in all directions 150 years ago. They identified 47 habitable worlds beyond known space. Then they systematically colonized all of them. The hologram showed human expansion, not in one direction, but spreading out in all directions. Each colony world becoming a hub for further expansion. This changes everything, said Threxar. We came to conquer one world, but humanity now controls dozens, maybe hundreds by now. There's more, said Mexvan. I found military records. The humans didn't just evacuate, they prepared. Every colony ship carried not just civilians, but soldiers, weapons, manufacturing equipment. They were building an empire while we thought they were dying. Threxar felt a chill run through his scales. What are you saying? Mexvan looked at his commander. I'm saying we're not hunting refugees. We're looking at an expanding human civilization that's had a century to prepare. A civilization that successfully evacuated 8 billion people and established colonies across unknown space. They're not weak, they're survivors. Against his better judgment, Threxar ordered the fleet to search for the human colonies. The Zarkonian Empire had invested too much in this invasion to simply turn back empty-handed. They started by following the trajectory data found in Earth's databases. The first colony ship had departed 102 years ago, heading toward a star system 35 light-years away. The fleet set course. When they arrived at the target system, they found what they expected: a human colony. What they didn't expect was how developed it was. The colony world, which humans called New Terra, wasn't a struggling settlement. It was a thriving civilization. Cities covered 2 continents. Orbital stations ringed the planet. Agriculture, industry, infrastructure. Everything a mature colony needed. Commander, said Velkir, I'm detecting defensive satellites, energy shields, military installations. They're armed. Of course they are, Threxar said. They've had 100 years. Scan for population. The numbers came back. 7 billion humans on New Terra alone. 7 billion. One colony world has almost the same population as Earth did, breathed the military advisor. How did they grow so fast? Because they were already growing on Earth, explained Mexvan. When they evacuated, they didn't abandon their technology. They brought everything: medical advances, agricultural science, industrial capacity. They hit the ground running and never stopped. Threxar made a decision. We observe only. No contact. I want to see what we're dealing with before we act. The fleet stayed at the edge of the system, using passive sensors. Over the next week, they watched New Terra. They saw cargo ships coming and going, saw construction projects, saw a civilization that was not just surviving but thriving. And then they saw something that changed everything. A massive ship arrived at New Terra. It was unlike anything in the Zarkonian database. Sleek, powerful, and heavily armed. The ship's design incorporated technology that looked more advanced than the Zarkonian Empire's best vessels. What is that? Asked Threxar. Velkir ran the scans. It's human military. A dreadnought-class vessel. Commander, I'm detecting weapons systems I've never seen before. Energy signatures beyond our current capabilities. Impossible. Human technology was generations behind ours. Was, said Mexvan. That was 100 years ago. They've had a century of development, a century of pushing their limits, a century of evolution. The human dreadnought moved into orbit around New Terra. It was joined by 6 more ships of the same class, then a dozen smaller cruisers. The humans were building a fleet. They know we're here, said Velkir, suddenly. I'm being pinged by their sensors. They've detected us. Threxar's tail lashed with agitation. Fall back. All ships, retreat to the outer system. But before the Zarkonian fleet could move, a communication came through. The screen showed a human face. Female, middle-aged, wearing a military uniform. She looked directly at Threxar with calm eyes. Zarkonian vessel. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Human Systems Defense Force. You are in our territory. State your intentions. Threxar was caught off guard. We are conducting exploration of this region. The human admiral smiled slightly. It wasn't a friendly smile. You're 35 light-years from Zarkonian space. With 3,000 warships. This isn't exploration. This is an invasion fleet. She leaned forward. But you're 100 years too late. Earth is empty. We've moved on. We're not the civilization you came to conquer. We're something else now. What are you? Asked Threxar. We're 50 billion humans spread across 47 colony worlds. We're a civilization that survived extinction by our own hands. We learned from our mistakes. We adapted. We grew. And we will never again be caught unprepared. Admiral Chen's expression hardened. You have 24 hours to leave our territory. If you're still here after that, we will consider it an act of war. And trust me, Commander, you don't want a war with us. Not anymore. The transmission ended. Threxar looked at his officers. They all looked as shaken as he felt. Calculate our chances in a direct confrontation with the human fleet. The tactical officer worked quickly. His face paled. Commander, based on the energy signatures I'm detecting, we would lose. Their ships individually outgun ours, and they have superior numbers in this system. Threxar made the hardest decision of his military career. All ships retreat. We're leaving. The Zarkonian invasion fleet returned home in shame. 3,000 warships, tens of thousands of soldiers, all returning without firing a single shot. Fleet Commander Threxar stood before the Zarkonian High Council. The 5 supreme rulers sat on their elevated thrones, looking down at him with disapproval. You were sent to conquer Earth, said Supreme Ruler Vexthor. Instead, you retreated without engaging the enemy. Explain. Threxar activated a holographic display. He showed images of empty Earth, of thriving human colonies, of advanced human warships. He laid out everything his fleet had discovered. The humans are not what our intelligence indicated, he said. They have evolved beyond our projections. They are no longer a single-world species struggling with primitive technology. They are an expanding empire with 50 billion citizens and military capabilities that exceed our own. The supreme rulers looked at the data with disbelief. How is this possible? Asked Ruler Mexthar. 100 years ago, they were killing their own planet. They were on the verge of collapse. They chose survival over destruction, explained Scholar Mexvan, who had also been called to testify. When faced with extinction, they didn't give up. They didn't fight over remaining resources. They worked together, evacuated their entire species, started over. But 50 billion? That's population growth beyond any species we've encountered. The humans have advanced medicine, low infant mortality, high life expectancy, and they had 100 years of peace to grow without the wars that plagued them on Earth. Mexvan pulled up more data. Each colony world is now sending out its own colony ships. The humans are expanding exponentially. Supreme Ruler Vexthor looked at Threxar. What is your military assessment? Can we defeat them? Threxar chose his words carefully. With our current forces? No. The human ships I encountered were technologically superior. They've developed weapons and defenses beyond our current capabilities. A war would cost us dearly. Even if we won, asked another ruler. Even if we won, we'd be devastated. And the humans have 47 worlds. We would have to conquer all of them, while they can keep expanding beyond our reach. The council was silent for a long moment. Finally, Supreme Ruler Vexthor spoke. The Zarkonian Empire has never retreated from an enemy. Never. But perhaps this is not retreat. This is strategic reassessment. He looked at his fellow rulers. We cannot conquer humanity, but perhaps we can negotiate with them, open diplomatic relations, learn from their survival, their adaptability. These are traits we should study, not destroy. The vote was taken. The Zarkonian Empire would not invade humanity. Instead, they would seek peaceful contact. Threxar felt relief, but also something else. Respect. The humans had survived impossible odds, had evacuated their entire species, had built a new civilization from nothing. That took strength, determination, vision. Perhaps, he thought, humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their technology. It was their refusal to give up. 6 months after the failed invasion, a single Zarkonian diplomatic vessel approached New Terra. No weapons, no military escort, just one ship carrying Ambassador Krelthar and a small diplomatic staff. They were met by a human escort, 3 cruisers that guided the Zarkonian ship to a space station orbiting New Terra. The station was enormous, clearly designed to accommodate many species. Ambassador Krelthar was nervous as he disembarked. He was greeted by Admiral Sarah Chen, the same human who had dismissed the invasion fleet. "Welcome to Unity Station," Admiral Chen said. "Thank you for accepting our invitation." Chen smiled. It wasn't warm, but it wasn't hostile either. "We were surprised when you asked for diplomatic talks. 6 months ago, you came with an invasion fleet. What changed?" "We learned the truth," Krelthar said, "about what happened to Earth, about what you've built." He looked around the station, "About who you are now." Chen led him through the station. They passed humans working alongside other aliens, species Krelthar didn't recognize. "You're not alone out here," he observed. "No," Chen said. "We've made contact with 17 species since leaving Earth. None of them knew about the galactic cooperative that you're part of. They're all isolated civilizations, just like we were. We've formed our own alliance. The United Systems Compact. How many members? 32 species now. The humans, plus 17 we've discovered, plus 14 others who joined after hearing about us." She looked at Krelthar. "We're building something new out here. A community based on cooperation, not domination." They entered a conference room. A long table with representatives from multiple species. Humans, yes, but also blue-skinned aquatic beings. Tall, crystalline entities, small, furry creatures, and empty seats clearly meant for the Zarkonians. "Ambassador Krelthar," Chen said, "allow me to introduce the Compact Council. We're here to discuss the possibility of formal diplomatic relations between the Zarkonian Empire and the United Systems Compact." Krelthar took his seat. He had expected a simple negotiation with humanity. Instead, he was facing a multi-species alliance, an alliance that humans had built in just 100 years. The negotiations lasted 3 days. Krelthar learned that the United Systems Compact was based on principles very different from the Zarkonian Empire. Voluntary membership, shared technology, collective defense. No single species dominated. And at the center of it all were humans, not as overlords, but as the glue holding everything together. Their adaptability, their diplomacy, their willingness to help other species survive and thrive. On the final day, a treaty was signed. The Zarkonian Empire would establish an embassy on Unity Station. Trade would begin, information would be shared, and most importantly, peace would be maintained. As Krelthar prepared to leave, Admiral Chen spoke to him privately. "Ambassador, can I ask you something? What did your people plan to do with Earth once you conquered it?" Krelthar was uncomfortable. "We planned to colonize it, strip its remaining resources, use it as a forward base for further expansion." Chen nodded. "That's what we thought." She looked out at the stars. Earth is still there, empty but healing. The atmosphere is recovering. The ecosystems are rebuilding. In another 100 years, it might be livable again. Will humans return? Chen smiled. Maybe. Our grandchildren's grandchildren might choose to reclaim our homeworld. Or maybe we'll leave it as a memorial, a reminder of what happens when you don't take care of your planet. She looked at Krelthar. Either way, Earth isn't yours to take. It's humanity's birthplace. And we protect what's ours. 2 years after the treaty was signed, a crisis struck the Zarkonian Empire. A plague swept through their core worlds. It wasn't fatal, but it rendered their primary agricultural worlds unusable. Crops failed. Food supplies dwindled. The Empire faced starvation. Supreme Ruler Vexthor made a difficult decision. He contacted the United Systems Compact, asked for help. It was humiliating for the proud Zarkonian Empire, but necessary. The response came within hours. Admiral Chen, now serving as the Compact's military coordinator, appeared on screen. "How much food do you need?" Vexthor provided the numbers. Enough to feed 2 billion Zarkonians for 6 months, while they found alternative food sources. Chen was quiet for a moment. "That's a lot. We'll need to coordinate across multiple compact worlds. You'll help." Vexthor was surprised. "Even after we came to conquer you," Chen smiled. "That was 2 years ago. You've been peaceful neighbors since, and more importantly, we understand what it's like to face extinction. We won't let anyone suffer when we have the means to help." Over the next weeks, cargo ships from 17 compact worlds arrived in Zarkonian space. Millions of tons of food, medicine, agricultural experts to help restart the Zarkonian farming industry. The Zarkonians were overwhelmed by the generosity. They had expected demands, conditions. Instead, the humans and their allies simply helped. Ambassador Krelthar spoke with a human relief coordinator named Marcus Webb. "Why are you helping us?" "We were your enemies." Marcus shrugged. "Were is the key word. You're not our enemies now. And we don't let people starve. That's not who we are. But surely you expect something in return." Marcus smiled. "Yeah. We expect that when someone else needs help, you'll remember this. You'll help them too. That's how the Compact works. We all lift each other up." The plague crisis passed. The Zarkonian Empire recovered. And something changed in their relationship with the Compact. Gratitude replaced suspicion. Respect replaced fear. 6 months later, Supreme Ruler Vexthor made an unprecedented announcement. The Zarkonian Empire requested membership in the United Systems Compact. The vote was held on Unity Station. Representatives from all 32 member species gathered. There was debate. Some species remembered the invasion fleet. Others pointed to the 2 years of peace. And many cited the Compact's founding principle. Any species that chose cooperation over conquest was welcome. The vote passed. The Zarkonian Empire became the 33rd member of the United Systems Compact. A former enemy became an ally. At the ceremony, Admiral Chen shook Vexthor's claw. "Welcome to the Compact. We're glad to have you." Vexthor looked at her. "When we came to conquer Earth 100 years too late, I thought we had lost an opportunity. Now I realize we gained something better, a chance to be part of something greater than Empire." Chen smiled. "That's what humanity learned when we left Earth. The universe is too big and too dangerous to face alone. Together, we're stronger." 20 years after the failed invasion, a joint expedition was organized. Humans, Zarkonians, and representatives from a dozen compact species would visit Earth together. They would study the abandoned planet, see how it had recovered, and document humanity's lost homeworld. Admiral Sarah Chen, now in her 70s, led the human delegation. Former Fleet Commander Threxar, retired but still respected, represented the Zarkonians. Scholar Mexvin came as the expedition's chief scientist. Their ship, appropriately named Phoenix, entered Earth's orbit. Everyone crowded around viewports to see the blue planet. "It's beautiful," said a young Zarkonian officer, who hadn't seen Earth before. "So much water." Chen smiled with nostalgia. "Yeah, that's Earth. That's home." They landed in New York. The city was unrecognizable from the thriving metropolis it had been 120 years ago. Nature had fully reclaimed it. Trees grew through buildings. Wildlife roamed the streets. The concrete jungle had become an actual jungle. The expedition set up a temporary base in Central Park. Teams spread out to study different areas. Chen found herself walking alone through what had been Times Square. The famous billboards were long gone, corroded by time and weather, but she could still see hints of the city that had been. Threxar found her there. His scales had dulled with age, but his eyes were still sharp. "Admiral Chen, or should I say, fellow retiree." Chen laughed. "Sarah is fine. We're both too old for formalities." They walked together through the ruined city. Threxar spoke quietly. "When I first came here, I saw only an empty planet, a failed civilization. I didn't understand what I was really seeing. What were you really seeing?" Threxar stopped and looked around. "I was seeing a civilization that chose survival over comfort, that chose cooperation over conflict, that chose the future over the present." He met her eyes. "I was seeing the beginning of something that would change the galaxy." Chen smiled. "Humanity didn't change the galaxy. We just found others who wanted the same things we did. Peace, progress, a better future for our children. That's exactly how you changed it," Threxar said. "By showing us there was another way." Scholar Mexvin called them over. He had discovered something in an old museum, a preserved exhibit about human spaceflight, pictures of the first moon landing, the International Space Station, the early Mars colonies. "Look at this timeline," Mexvin said. "From first flight to moon landing, 66 years. From moon landing to Mars colony, 34 years. From Mars colony to evacuation of Earth, 81 years. Humans went from learning to fly to evacuating their entire species in less than 200 years. "We were motivated," Chen said dryly. "Nothing focuses the mind like approaching extinction." "But you did more than just survive," Mexvin insisted. "You grew. You thrived. You brought 32 species together into something unprecedented." He looked at the old exhibits. This is where it started, with humans looking at the stars and deciding to reach for them. The expedition spent 2 weeks on Earth. They documented the recovery, saw ecosystems healing, saw biodiversity returning. The planet that humans had nearly killed was slowly coming back to life. On the last day, Chen stood on the shore in what had been New Jersey. She looked across at Manhattan, remembered the city as it had been. The lights, the noise, the millions of people living their lives. "Will humans ever come back?" asked a young human officer named Emma Webb. She was Marcus's daughter, born on New Terra. She had never seen Earth before. Chen thought about it. Maybe someday, when Earth is ready, when we're ready. She smiled at Emma. But we're not homeless anymore. We have 47 worlds now, more being settled every year. Earth is where we came from, but the Compact is where we're going. The expedition returned to Compact space with their findings, but they also brought something else. Scholar Mexvan had discovered a time capsule buried beneath the old United Nations building. The capsule had been designed to last for centuries. Inside were recordings, messages from the last generation of humans to live on Earth, messages for whoever might find them. Admiral Chen called a special session of the Compact Council. Representatives from all member species gathered on Unity Station. The time capsule was opened, and the messages were played. The first message was from the last Secretary General of the United Nations, a woman named Dr. Elena Rodriguez. She appeared on screen, her face tired but determined. "If you're watching this, then Earth has been rediscovered. Whether by our descendants or by others, I don't know. But I want you to understand what happened here." She gestured to images of a dying Earth. "We did this. Humanity did this to our own planet. We knew better. We had the science, the knowledge, the warnings. But we didn't act fast enough. We prioritized short-term gains over long-term survival." Dr. Rodriguez's expression hardened. "But we also did something else. When faced with the consequences of our failures, we didn't give up. We didn't descend into chaos. We came together. Every nation, every culture, every human being worked toward one goal: survival." More images appeared, of massive ships being built, of people evacuating, of tears and hope mixed together. "The evacuation took 30 years, Dr. Rodriguez said. Not everyone got to choose their destination. Not everyone got to say goodbye properly. But everyone got a chance. We saved 8 billion people because we finally understood the most important lesson." She leaned toward the camera. "We are one species, one family. And when we work together, we can accomplish the impossible." The message ended. The council chamber was silent. More messages played. Scientists explaining the environmental collapse. Engineers describing the colony ships. Teachers talking about preserving human culture and knowledge. Children saying goodbye to the only world they had ever known. And then the final message. An elderly man identified as Dr. James Chen, one of the chief architects of the evacuation. "I am recording this from the last ship to leave Earth," he said. "We're the cleanup crew, making sure nothing was left behind that could harm the planet's recovery, making sure Earth has a chance to heal." He looked out a window at the blue planet shrinking behind them. "I was born on Earth. I'll die among the stars. But my children will live on new worlds. My grandchildren will build new cities. My great-grandchildren will explore places I can only imagine." Dr. Chen smiled through tears. "That's the human story. We fall, we rise, we adapt, we survive, and we never ever stop reaching for the stars." His final words echoed through the chamber. "To whoever finds this, learn from our mistakes. Protect your world. Work together. And never lose hope. Because if humanity could survive what we did to ourselves, then anything is possible." The recording ended. Admiral Chen looked around at the faces of the Compact Council. Humans, yes, but also Zarkonians, Vexari, Krellans, 33 species, all watching in silence. "Supreme Ruler, Vexthor spoke first. I understand now why humans built the compact the way they did. You learned the hardest lesson possible. Cooperation isn't optional, it's survival. A Krellian representative stood. When the Zarkonians first shared what they found on Earth, many of us thought humans were weak, that you ran away from your problems. But now I see the truth. You didn't run, you transformed. You became something stronger. Emma Webb, the young officer who had visited Earth, raised her hand. Admiral Chen recognized her. Ma'am, I just want to say, I'm proud to be human. I'm proud of what our ancestors did. Not the part where they hurt Earth, but the part where they saved everyone, where they chose to be better. Chen smiled. That's the message we carry forward, Emma. Not just humans. All of us in the compact. We choose to be better. Every day. Every decision. That's how we honor those who came before. 50 years after the discovery of the empty Earth, the United Systems Compact had grown to include 89 species. Human colonies numbered in the hundreds. The Compact's territory stretched across thousands of light years. But they never forgot the lessons learned on that abandoned blue planet. Every compact ship, regardless of which species built it, carried a small piece of Earth. A sample of soil, a pressed flower, a small stone. A reminder of where humanity came from and why the compact existed. Every compact officer, human or not, studied Earth's history as part of their training. They learned about environmental collapse, about the evacuation, about the determination to survive. And every year, on the anniversary of the last ship leaving Earth, the entire compact observed Remembrance Day, a day to honor those who made hard choices, those who left their homes so their children could have a future. Admiral Sarah Chen passed away at age 89. Her funeral was attended by representatives from every compact species. She was buried on New Terra, the first human colony, with full military honors. At her funeral, Emperor Threxar of the Zarkonian Union, the Empire had reformed into a democracy and joined the compact fully, gave the eulogy. I met Admiral Chen twice, he said. Once as an enemy when I came to conquer her people. Once as a friend, when we visited Earth together. She taught me that strength isn't about domination. It's about protection. Power isn't about conquest. It's about cooperation. He looked at the assembled mourners. Humanity taught the galaxy something profound. When you have nothing left but each other, that's when you discover your true strength. The compact exists because humans showed us that working together isn't weakness. It's the only way forward. Emma Webb, now a captain in the compact defense force, stood at her grandmother's grave after the ceremony. She placed a small flower from Earth on the grave marker. Thank you, Grandma, she whispered, for carrying the legacy, for building something beautiful from something broken. She looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, Earth continued its slow recovery, empty but healing, waiting for the day when humanity might return. But whether humans returned to Earth or not, the legacy was secure. The compact thrived, peace held, and 89 species worked together to build a future that honored the past. 5 centuries after the evacuation, a small ceremony took place on Earth. The planet had fully recovered. Forests covered the continents. Oceans teemed with life. The air was clean, the climate stable. A group of humans stood in what had once been Central Park. It was wild forest now. Ancient trees towered overhead. Birds sang. A deer watched them from a distance, unafraid. Ambassador Marcus Chen, Emma Webb's great-great-great-grandson, stood at the front of the group. He was the first human to officially return to Earth as a permanent resident. Behind him stood representatives from all 89 compact species who had come to witness this historic moment. 500 years ago, he said, the last humans left this planet. They left because they had to, because they had made mistakes and Earth couldn't sustain them anymore. He knelt and touched the soil, rich, healthy, full of life. But we didn't give up. We didn't go extinct. We survived, we grew, we built something better. A holographic display activated, showing images of the compact, hundreds of worlds, billions of beings, humans, Zarkonians, and 87 other species all living together, trading, exploring, creating. Today, humans return to Earth, Marcus continued, not as conquerors reclaiming lost territory, not as refugees returning home, but as visitors honoring our past. He stood and looked at the assembled aliens. Some were old species, like the Zarkonians, who had been part of the compact from the beginning. Others were newly discovered civilizations, learning about humanity for the first time. Earth is open to all compact members, Marcus announced. This will be a shared world, a memorial to what was lost and what was gained. Any species can visit, any species can study, because Earth's story isn't just humanity's story anymore. It's a lesson for everyone. A young Zarkonian stepped forward. Her name was Scholar Vexrina, descendant of the original Vexthor. May I speak? Marcus nodded. I am 5th generation compact, Vexrina said. I grew up learning about Earth, about the evacuation, about how humans nearly destroyed themselves, but chose survival instead. She looked around at the wild forest. This place shaped the galaxy, not through war or conquest, but through the lesson it taught. What lesson? Asked a newly discovered species called the Mirath, attending their first compact ceremony. Vexrina smiled. That failure isn't the end, that mistakes can be learned from, that species can change, that working together is how we all survive. The ceremony continued. A monument was unveiled. It was simple, a sphere representing Earth, surrounded by 89 smaller spheres representing each compact species. The inscription read in all compact languages. Here, humans learned they could destroy themselves. Here they chose instead to save themselves. Here they taught the galaxy that survival requires unity. This is where the compact was born. After the ceremony, Marcus walked alone through the forest. He found the ruins of an old building, covered in vines, almost invisible. But he recognized it from historical records, the United Nations headquarters. He entered carefully. The main assembly hall was open to the sky, the roof having collapsed centuries ago. But the seats were still there, rows and rows where diplomats once argued about the fate of the world. Marcus sat in one, imagined his ancestors sitting here, making the hardest decisions in human history, deciding to evacuate, deciding to give up their homeworld, deciding to start over. His communicator buzzed. It was Admiral Kira Singh, current commander of the Compact Defense Force. Marcus, we have a situation. What kind of situation? Marcus activated the holographic display. It showed deep space, a distress signal. We've detected a dying civilization, a species we've never encountered. They're facing environmental collapse on their homeworld. Their planet is failing. They have maybe 20 years. Marcus felt a chill. How many of them? About 12 billion. Can we help them? Singh nodded. We have the ships, the resources, the experience. We've evacuated populations before, though never this large. But Marcus, this will strain the compact. It'll take decades, cost enormous resources. And this species doesn't even know we exist yet. Marcus thought about the time capsule, Dr. Rodriguez's message about working together, Dr. Chen's words about never losing hope, about reaching for the stars. We help them, Marcus said firmly. That's what the compact does. That's what humans learned on Earth. When someone needs help, you help, no matter the cost. Singh smiled. I was hoping you'd say that. I'm dispatching the evacuation fleet now. We'll need compact-wide cooperation, every species contributing. That's what we built the compact for, Marcus said. He looked around the ruined assembly hall. This is exactly what humanity learned here. You don't let people die when you can save them. The species in crisis called themselves the Yulari. They were a peaceful civilization of 12 billion beings living on a single world. Like humans 5 centuries ago, they had damaged their planet beyond repair. Unlike humans, they hadn't figured out how to leave. The first compact contact team arrived at the Yulari homeworld within a month. The team was led by Commander Rextal, a Zarkonian officer, and Dr. Jennifer Martinez, a human xenobiologist. The Yulari government was in chaos when they made contact. Their scientists had predicted total environmental collapse within 15 years. Every day, more of their planet became uninhabitable. They were facing extinction and had no solution. When Commander Rextal explained that the compact had come to evacuate them, the Yulari leadership thought it was a cruel joke. The Yulari Prime Minister, a being named Sovereign Tulma, looked at the aliens with desperation and suspicion. You're saying you can evacuate 12 billion of us? To where? Why would you help us? Dr. Martinez pulled up a holographic display. It showed Earth. 500 years ago, my species faced the same crisis you're facing now. We were dying. Our planet was failing. But we didn't give up. We evacuated 8 billion humans to new worlds. Tulma stared at the images. How? How is such a thing possible? It takes time. Resources, cooperation, Rextal said, and it takes every species in the compact working together. We've already begun construction of colony ships. We've identified 20 suitable worlds for Yulari settlement. But why? Tulma asked again. Why would you do this for us? We have nothing to offer you. We're dying. Martinez smiled gently. Because that's what the compact does. We help species survive. No payment needed, no debt incurred. We just help. Over the next months, the compact mobilized the largest operation in its history. Every member species contributed. Humans provided colony ship designs based on the original Earth evacuation. Zarkonians supplied construction materials. Krellians offered agricultural technology. Vexari contributed medical knowledge. 89 species working together to save one. The colony ships took 3 years to build. During that time, compact personnel worked on the Yulari homeworld to buy time. Environmental engineers tried to slow the collapse. Medical teams treated the sick. Teachers began preparing the Yulari for life on new worlds. Marcus Chen visited the Yulari homeworld during the evacuation preparation. He walked through their cities, saw the fear in their eyes, saw parents holding children, wondering if they'd survive. He met a young Yulari named Felmara. She was a student, maybe equivalent to a human teenager. She approached Marcus cautiously. Are you human? She asked through a translator. Yes, I'm human. Your species did this? This evacuation? You saved yourselves this way. Marcus nodded. 500 years ago, every human alive today is descended from those who left Earth. Felmara looked at him with wonder. And now, you're saving us. Why? Marcus thought about the question. When my ancestors left Earth, they made a promise. They promised to be better, to never let others suffer what they suffered. The compact exists to keep that promise. Will we survive? Felmara asked quietly. Really? Marcus put a hand on her shoulder. You will survive. You'll leave this world. You'll settle new planets. You'll build new cities. Your grandchildren will look at the stars and barely remember this crisis. Because that's what species do. We survive. We adapt. We move forward. The evacuation began 4 years after first contact. The first colony ships departed with 10 million Yulari aboard. They were bound for a world the Yulari named New Hope, in honor of the human colony, New Terra. Over the next 12 years, wave after wave of colony ships left the dying world. 12 billion beings, relocated to 20 different planets, the largest population transfer in galactic history, and not a single Yulari was left behind. Every citizen who wanted to leave got a spot on a ship, the sick, the elderly, the children, everyone. 20 years after the Yulari evacuation began, their civilization was thriving on their new worlds. They had adapted, built new cities, established new governments, and they formally requested membership in the United Systems Compact. The vote was held on Unity Station, now expanded to accommodate representatives from 90 species. The Yulari request passed unanimously. They became the 90th member of the Compact. At the ceremony, Sovereign Tulma, now elderly, and using the title Elder in retirement, spoke to the assembly. When the Compact found us, we were dying. We had given up hope. We believed our species would end. She looked at Marcus Chen, now serving as Compact Secretary. Then you arrived, and you showed us something we thought was impossible. She gestured to the Yulari delegation. Today, 12 billion of my people live on 20 worlds. Our children go to school. Our scientists conduct research. Our artists create beauty. We exist because you refused to let us die. Tulmer's voice grew stronger. The Yulari join the Compact, not as beggars grateful for charity. We join as equals, ready to contribute. And we make this promise. When the Compact encounters the next species in crisis, we will help. We will give what was given to us, because that is what the Compact means. The assembly erupted in applause, not just from humans, but from all 90 species. The Compact had grown again, and with each new member, its core mission strengthened. Survival through cooperation. After the ceremony, young Felmara, now an adult and a junior diplomat, approached Marcus. She had been that scared teenager on the dying world. Now she was confident, purposeful. Secretary Chen, I wanted to thank you personally. You told me we would survive. You were right, Marcus smiled. You survived because your people were strong enough to accept help. That takes courage, too. I have a question, Felmara said. When will the Yulari homeworld recover? Will we ever return? Marcus thought about Earth, about the 500 years it took to heal. Maybe in a few centuries, maybe never. But it doesn't matter where you live. What matters is that you survived, that you have a future. Felmara nodded, like the humans and Earth, exactly like that. 50 years after the Yulari joined the Compact, humanity celebrated the 550th anniversary of the evacuation from Earth. The celebration was held on Earth itself, which had become a symbolic center of the Compact. Tens of thousands of beings, from dozens of species, gathered in the restored United Nations Plaza. It wasn't a functioning city anymore. It was a memorial, a park, a reminder. Marcus Chen, now very old, gave what he knew would be his final public address. He stood before the massive crowd, his voice carried by translators. 550 years ago, humanity left this planet. We left because we had failed. We had destroyed our home through greed, ignorance, and short-sightedness. He paused, looking at the diverse crowd. But we also left with a lesson learned. We learned that when you face extinction, you have two choices: give up or adapt. Humanity chose to adapt. Images appeared behind him: the colony ships, the new worlds, the Compact's formation, the rescue of the Yulari. Today, 90 species stand together. We've saved civilizations, we've prevented wars, we've explored thousands of worlds. And all of it traces back to this place, to Earth, to the mistakes made here and the lessons learned here. His voice grew serious. But I must offer a warning to all species in the Compact. What happened to Earth can happen anywhere. Environmental collapse, resource depletion, climate catastrophe. These dangers don't go away just because we reach the stars. He looked directly at the cameras broadcasting to all Compact worlds. Every species must guard against the mistakes humanity made. Every species must protect their worlds. Because evacuation is survival, yes, but it's also failure. The best outcome is never needing to evacuate at all. The crowd was silent. His words carried weight. Learn from Earth, Marcus said. Visit this memorial. Study the history. Understand what went wrong and why. Then go home and make sure it never happens to your world. He smiled. But if disaster does strike, remember, you're not alone. The Compact will help. That's our promise. That's humanity's legacy. We survived, so we help others survive. Marcus Chen died 3 months later, at age 97. His funeral was attended by millions. He was buried on Earth, near the memorial. His gravestone read simply, "He carried the lesson forward." 100 years after Marcus Chen's death, a Compact exploration vessel made a startling discovery. In a remote region of space, they found ruins. Ancient ruins from a civilization that had died out millions of years ago. The archaeological team that studied the ruins was led by Dr. Zara Webb, Marcus's great-granddaughter. She spent 2 years excavating the site. What she found changed everyone's understanding of galactic history. The extinct civilization, which they named the Precursors, had been incredibly advanced. They had colonized hundreds of worlds, built megastructures, mastered technology the Compact couldn't imagine. And then they had died. Dr. Webb found records, ancient data crystals that still functioned after millions of years. She translated the information with the help of Compact linguists. The story the Precursors left behind was chilling. They had been an empire of a single species, powerful, dominant. They had conquered other species, enslaved them, used them. They had strip-mined entire worlds for resources. They had believed they were invincible. Then their core worlds began to fail. Environmental collapse on a galactic scale. They had damaged so many worlds that their civilization couldn't sustain itself. They tried to evacuate, built colony ships. But they had made too many enemies. The species they had enslaved rebelled. Their empire fragmented. Their evacuation failed. Within 3 centuries, the Precursors went from galactic dominance to extinction. The final message was from a precursor scientist named Untranslatable. Dr. Webb played it for the Compact Council. "We believed power meant safety," the ancient alien said through the translation. "We believed domination meant security. We were wrong. In the end, our strength became our weakness. We had no friends, no allies. When we needed help, there was no one to help us." The hologram showed the Precursor's face, alien, strange, but the emotion was universal. Regret. If any species finds this, learn from our failure. Cooperation is not weakness. Isolation is not strength. Survival requires working together. The message ended. The council chamber was silent. Elder Vexrina, now the Compact's chief historian, spoke first. "This is why the Compact exists. This is why humanity's lesson was so important. The precursors were powerful but alone. We are cooperative and together. Dr. Webb added another finding. I also discovered that the precursors had visited Earth 3 million years ago, long before humans evolved. They catalogued it as a potential colony world, but decided it was too hostile, too dangerous. A Yulari counselor laughed. They thought Earth was too hostile, and yet humans evolved there naturally. That's the irony, Webb said. The death world that the precursors rejected became the birthplace of the species that would show the galaxy a better way. The precursor discovery became a cornerstone of compact education. Every school taught about both civilizations, the precursors who dominated and died, and humanity who cooperated and thrived. The contrast was clear. The lesson was universal. 1,000 years after the evacuation of Earth, the United Systems Compact had grown beyond anything its founders could have imagined. 347 species, thousands of worlds, trillions of beings. And at the heart of it all, Earth remained. Not populated, except for researchers and pilgrims, but preserved, protected, sacred. A young human girl named Sarah Chen, the name had become traditional in the family line, visited Earth for the first time. She was 12 years old, born on a colony world 500 light years from humanity's homeworld. Her teacher, a Zarkonian named Instructor Krelvin, brought his entire class to Earth for their graduation trip. 20 students from 10 different species. They stood in the plaza where Marcus Chen had given his final speech, where the monument stood with its 347 spheres representing all compact members. Instructor Krelvin spoke to the class. This place represents the most important lesson in galactic history. Not a lesson about technology or warfare or exploration, a lesson about survival. He pointed to Earth, visible in the daytime sky above. 1,000 years ago, humanity faced extinction on that world. They could have fought each other for the remaining resources, could have descended into chaos, could have died in despair. What did they do instead? Asked a small Vartu student. They worked together, Sarah Chen answered. She had learned the story from her parents, who learned it from theirs, going back generations. Every human, every nation, every culture. They all cooperated. They built ships. They evacuated everyone. They saved themselves. Krelvin nodded, and then they did something even more remarkable. They helped others do the same. The Yulari, the Krentos, the Malith. 43 species have been saved from extinction by the Compact. Saved because humanity remembered what it was like to face death. A young Zarkonian student raised her claw. Instructor, my grandfather told me stories about when our empire tried to invade Earth. He said we came with warships and found ghosts. Krelvin clicked his mandibles in amusement. That's true. My great-great-ancestor was on that fleet. They expected to find humans to conquer. Instead, they found an empty world and a lesson about adaptation. What lesson? Asked Sarah. That running away isn't cowardice if you're running toward survival. That admitting failure isn't weakness if you learn from it. That asking for help isn't shameful if you're willing to help others in return. The class was quiet, absorbing this. Krelvin continued. Every species in the Compact carries a piece of Earth, a reminder of where this all started. He pulled out a small crystal. Inside was a fragment of Earth soil. This is from the time capsule. Every Compact ship has one. Every government building. Every school. Why? Asked the Vartu student. Because we must never forget, Krelvin said. Never forget that civilizations can fail, that planets can die, that species can go extinct. But also never forget that cooperation can save us, that working together makes us stronger, that survival is possible if we help each other. Sarah looked at her teacher. Is that why you became a teacher? To tell this story. Krelvin's eyes softened. I became a teacher because my ancestor came to invade humanity and learned humility instead. He spent his life after that teaching Zarkonians about cooperation. I continue his work. The class spent the day exploring Earth. They saw the wild forests, the recovered ecosystems, the monument to the evacuated, the time capsule, the preserved ruins of human civilization. At the end of the day, they gathered for one final ceremony. Each student planted a tree. A tradition started centuries ago. Millions of trees had been planted by visitors. A living memorial to hope and survival. Sarah planted her tree carefully. It was a sapling from New Terra, humanity's first colony, bringing life from the new world to the old, connecting past and future. As she patted the soil around the roots, she thought about her ancestors, the ones who had left this world 1,000 years ago, the ones who had built ships and saved their species, the ones who had created the compact. Thank you, she whispered to them, for being brave, for not giving up, for teaching us all how to survive. Above her, Earth's sky was clear and blue. Birds flew overhead. The wind rustled through trees that had grown from similar ceremonies. Life had returned to the death world. And in the stars above, thousands of worlds hosted trillions of beings, all living in peace, all cooperating, all remembering the lesson learned on a planet that had nearly died. The compact thrived because humanity had failed, and in that failure found the wisdom to succeed. Recorded by the Compact Historical Society, year 1000. After evacuation. To future generations, Earth was not humanity's greatest achievement. The evacuation was not humanity's finest hour. No, humanity's legacy is what came after. They could have hoarded their survival knowledge, could have kept their evacuation technology secret, could have said, "We suffered. Now it's your turn." Instead, they shared everything, helped everyone, built a community where no species would ever face extinction alone. That is humanity's gift to the galaxy, not their technology, not their strength, but their refusal to let others suffer what they suffered. Remember this, honor this, continue this. The Compact exists because humans learned that survival means helping everyone survive. That is the lesson of Earth. That is the legacy of humanity. That is why we stand together among the stars.